You're floating in the middle of a vast, endless ocean. Sunlight cuts through the surface, scattering into shimmering ribbons that dance across the sand below. Your heart beats with the thrill of a true explorer. For the first time, you feel absolute freedom, as if down here, nothing from the world above can touch you. You take a deep breath through your regulator and begin to descend. At first, it's a world of vibrant color, tropical fish weaving like living jewels, coral blooming like secret flowers. But the deeper you go, the more the colors fade. The pressure begins to squeeze your chest. The light dims, replaced by a cold, creeping darkness wrapping itself around you. You glance at your oxygen gauge. The needle has already dropped below half. Your heartbeat quickens. And that's when you realize, no one told you this adventure had limits. Welcome to Trading Psychology Stick, where we dive deep into the psychological waters most traders never dare explore. Quick disclaimer, what you're about to hear comes from real experiences in the markets, both mine and those of traders I've known. This isn't financial advice, it's a wake-up call about the true cost of this journey. Trading is the same kind of deep dive. On the surface, it promises financial freedom, limitless income, and a life unshackled from the grind. But the deeper you go, the more you feel pressures no one prepared you for. Losing capital, losing years of your life, losing relationships that once anchored you. And at a certain depth, many never make it back to the surface. I've been there. I've lived through the days where every mouse click felt like a blade slicing into both my account and my spirit. I've watched friends, colleagues, and fellow traders vanish without a word, like divers lost forever in the dark. But I've also seen survivors, and they weren't the fastest swimmers or the boldest risk takers. They were the ones who learned to breathe differently. The ones who understood that survival in the deep isn't about speed, it's about control. Over the next chapters, we're going to dive together, past the sunlight, into the cold, unlit depths, where the real cost of trading reveals itself. But this isn't just a journey into the dark, because if you know how to manage your oxygen, your money, your time, your mind, you can come back up, stronger and wiser, carrying treasures no storm can take away. Chapter 1. The Hidden Price Tag. Every trade you place has a price tag, not the one you see on your broker's fee schedule, but the one that silently attaches itself to your time, your energy, your relationships, and your mental health. In the beginning, it's easy to ignore. You see a trade as a simple risk-reward calculation. If I win, I make X. If I lose Y. But in reality, the losses you'll remember years later aren't just the ones that drained your account. They're the ones that drained your life. I remember meeting a trader named Daniel at a coffee shop. He looked like success, tailored suit, gleaming watch, the kind of confident smile you only see on someone who's tasted big wins. But as we talked, his hands kept fidgeting with the cup, his eyes darting to his phone every few seconds. He admitted he hadn't taken a weekend off in 3 years. Even when I'm not trading, I'm thinking about the market, he said. His voice cracked on that last part, like he wasn't sure if it was a confession or a badge of honor. That's when I realized the real cost of trading often masquerades as dedication. Think about it. Every late night you spend watching charts is a night you don't spend with your family, with friends, or even just with yourself. Every hour of screen time is an hour your brain spends processing stress, and the human mind isn't built to run at redline indefinitely. The market might only take your money when you lose a trade, but it can steal your peace every single day if you let it. The hidden cost is also in the compounding of small sacrifices. Skipping workouts because you need to catch the open. Eating junk because you're glued to your desk. Postponing trips because you can't bear to be away from your setup. These don't feel like big losses in the moment, but like interest on a loan, they accumulate quietly until one day you wake up and realize you've built a life entirely around your trading screen, and the rest of the world has moved on without you. Here's the truth most don't want to admit. You can replace lost capital, but you can't buy back lost years. You can't purchase a rewind button for your child's early birthdays you missed, or the friendships that withered because you stopped showing up. That's why the first survival skill in this deep dive isn't about risk management in the market, it's about risk management in life. So ask yourself, if you had to put a dollar value on every hour, every relationship, every piece of mental clarity you've lost to trading, what would the total be? And if the market never pays that back, will you still call it worth it? Because here's the thing, spotting the hidden price tag early can save you from the depths later. But wait, there's something even more insidious that traders sacrifice without realizing it, something that starts innocently enough with just one late night watching the Asian session. Chapter 2. Sleep is for the weak until it's not. It starts innocently. One night, you stay up late because there's a setup forming in the Asian session. Another night, it's because you're tracking a news release. Soon, 2 a.m. isn't late anymore. It's just when the market gets interesting. You tell yourself you're hustling, that this is what separates the winners from the losers. And for a while, maybe it works. You catch a few good moves, you feel sharp, invincible. But the market has a way of rewarding bad habits just enough to keep you hooked. What it doesn't show you, at least not right away, is the slow, corrosive damage of trading while your body is running on fumes. Sleep deprivation isn't just about feeling tired. It's about your brain quietly losing its ability to make sound decisions, your emotions swinging like a wrecking ball, your immune system weakening until even a common cold can knock you out. I remember a trader named Lena. She prided herself on always being there for the market. London Open, New York Open, Tokyo Open. She'd joke that she slept in shifts like a soldier on watch. But when I saw her a year later, she looked a decade older. The spark in her eyes was gone. She admitted she was making more mistakes than ever, often closing good trades early out of fear or letting bad trades run because she was too tired to think. The charts hadn't beaten her, her own biology had. You see, trading while sleep-deprived is like diving deeper while your oxygen tank has a slow leak. You can still move, still see, still think, but not at full capacity. Every decision you make under that fog is a gamble with worse odds than you think. And the cruel part? You often don't notice the impairment until it's too late. The market won't tell you to take a break. It won't care if you're running on 3 hours of sleep and coffee fumes. But your brain will. Your body will. And when they crash, no amount of technical analysis will save you from the bad trades that follow. Before we go on, let me ask you something. When was the last time you slept 8 full hours without checking futures in the middle of the night? If you can't remember, comment reset below, because acknowledging it is the first step to breaking free. Here's the shift that saved me. Treating rest as a trading tool, not a luxury. I started setting hard cutoff times for screen time, no matter what the market was doing. I built a shutdown routine, closing my charts, dimming the lights, journaling my trades, then stepping away. At first, it felt like I was missing out. But within weeks, my win rate improved, not because my strategy changed, but because I was showing up with a clear mind. Ask yourself, if your next trade could decide whether you grow your account or blow it up, do you want to take it at your sharpest or at your sleepiest? Now imagine this. You've fixed your sleep schedule, you're rested, but there's still something missing. You're sitting at dinner with your family, physically present but mentally calculating position sizes. Your loved ones are talking, but all you hear is the echo of market noise. Chapter 3, Trading in Silence, Losing in Public. It's strange how trading can make you feel both invisible and exposed at the same time. You sit alone in a room, the glow of the chart your only company, making decisions no one else sees. Losses happen in silence. No one watches you click that stop loss. No one hears the sigh when another setup fails. But the consequences, they spill into the rest of your life for everyone to see. I once knew a trader named Marcus. On the surface, he looked like the steady type, quiet, disciplined, never one to brag. But one night over drinks, he told me how trading had become a secret war inside his home. He didn't talk about it with his wife anymore because every conversation turned into an argument. When he was winning, she worried he'd get reckless. When he was losing, she worried about the bills. So he stopped telling her anything at all. The silence built walls between them that no prophet could break down. This is the paradox. You hide your struggles to protect the people you love, but the more you hide, the more distance you create. And that distance eventually speaks louder than the words you were trying to avoid. Friends notice you stop showing up to events. Family senses you're distracted, even when you're there. They don't see the late-night candles on your screen, but they see the shadows under your eyes. In trading, isolation can feel like safety. You convince yourself that if you keep your losses private, they won't spill over. But they do. Stress changes your tone of voice, your patience, the way you respond to everyday things. It's like diving so deep that you can't hear anyone calling from the surface until you realize you're not sure how to get back. What saved Marcus wasn't a better trading strategy. It was learning to set boundaries. He started risking less so he could talk openly about his trades without fear of judgment. He scheduled no market days where he committed to being present with his family. Slowly, the silence lifted. Here's something I want you to try this week. Tell someone close to you one honest thing about your trading journey, whether it's a win, a loss, or just how you're feeling about it. Notice how it changes the weight you're carrying. Share what happened in the comments below. Your vulnerability might be exactly what another trader needs to hear today. If you're trading right now and keeping it a secret, ask yourself why. Is it because you want to surprise them with success? Or because you're afraid they'll see the truth before you do? Speaking of truth, let me share what happens when the secret breaks wide open. When trading stops being something you hide and becomes the only thing anyone sees when they look at you. Chapter 4. The Burnout Spiral. Burnout in trading doesn't happen with a single bad day. It's a slow erosion, the kind you barely notice until you wake up one morning and realize you feel nothing. No excitement when you win, no frustration when you lose. Just a dull, heavy numbness that clings to you like the deep ocean's pressure. I met a trader named Yuki who was the perfect picture of hustle. She traded every session, ran back tests between trades, and read market reports during meals. "I'm all in," she'd say proudly. For a while, the results matched the effort. Her account grew steadily, her confidence soared. But then, without any big crash or major loss, she started making sloppy mistakes, missing obvious signals, ignoring her own rules. It wasn't sabotage, it was fatigue disguised as discipline. She had been underwater too long, and the oxygen was running out. Burnout in trading isn't just mental, it's physical. Your nervous system lives in a constant state of alert, as if you're in a perpetual fight or flight mode. Even when you're away from the charts, your mind is still looping through what-if scenarios. Over time, this drains the joy not only from trading, but from everything else. Hobbies gather dust, conversations feel hollow. The market becomes your only world, and yet, paradoxically, you start caring less about it. I've been there myself, logging in not because I wanted to trade, but because I didn't know what else to do. Burnout strips you of choice. It makes trading feel less like freedom and more like a cage you built yourself. The turning point for Yuki came when she forced herself to take a full week off. No charts, no news, no trading talk. She rediscovered things she had abandoned: painting, cooking, long walks with her dog. And when she came back to trading, she noticed something shocking. She could see the market more clearly. She wasn't chasing every movement. She had patience again. Her mind had room to breathe. You know what's interesting? The traders who last decades in this game aren't the ones who grind the hardest. They're the ones who treat trading like a marathon, not a sprint. They understand that intensity without recovery leads to breakdown, not breakthrough. The irony is that the market rewards those who know when to step away. Just like a diver must ascend slowly to avoid the bends, a trader must surface regularly to avoid the slow suffocation of burnout. So, before we go deeper, ask yourself, when was the last time you came up for air? Ready for an uncomfortable truth? Even when you do take breaks, even when you manage your energy perfectly, there's still an illusion that keeps pulling traders under. A seductive lie that whispers, "You can control this." Chapter 5. The Mirage of Control. Control is a beautiful illusion. In trading, it starts with the charts, perfect lines, precise levels, clean patterns. You think, if I just study enough, if I just prepare enough, I can control what happens next. And for a while, it feels true. You set your entries, your stops, your targets. The market moves as planned. You believe you've mastered it. But the ocean doesn't care about your maps. One shift in the current, one unexpected swell, and everything changes. I once knew a trader named Alex who built an algorithm so precise it had a 70% win rate over 6 months. He poured his savings into it. Then one week, a sudden geopolitical event triggered a cascade in the markets, and the strategy failed catastrophically. He watched years of profit disappear in hours. "It's not fair," he kept saying, as if fairness had ever been part of the deal. That's the cruelty of the mirage. It doesn't just make you believe you can control outcomes, it makes you forget that uncertainty is the only constant. The more you chase control, the more shattered you feel when the market refuses to obey. And that shattering can push traders into dangerous territory. Revenge trading, doubling position sizes, throwing the plan out the window in a desperate attempt to prove they're still in charge. The truth? The only control you ever truly have is over yourself, your risk, your discipline, your reaction. Like a diver adjusting to an unexpected current, you can't dictate where the water flows, but you can control how you move through it. When I stopped trying to control the market and started focusing solely on controlling my process, everything changed. My stress dropped, my results steadied. I could sleep without obsessing over overnight moves. I began to see the market not as an enemy to be dominated, but as an environment to be navigated. Pause for a moment. Think about your last losing streak. Did you try to force the market to give back what it took? How did that work out? If you've ever revenge traded, type lesson learned in the comments. No judgment here, we've all been there. So, here's the question. Are you a trader, or are you a tourist still clinging to the illusion that the weather will always be perfect for your trip? But here's where it gets really dangerous. When control slips away and losses mount, something else takes its place. Something that starts small but grows into a monster you never saw coming. Chapter 6. The addiction you didn't see coming. Addiction doesn't always come in a bottle, a pill, or a needle. Sometimes it comes in the form of a glowing screen, flashing candles, and the intoxicating rush of a trade that goes instantly in your favor. At first, you call it dedication. You tell yourself you're simply staying on top of the market, doing the work, paying your dues. But the truth is quieter and more dangerous. You're feeding a habit that's beginning to own you. I once met a trader named Victor at a small meetup. He joked that he could quit trading anytime, the way people joke about coffee. But as we talked, he admitted he checked the markets before he brushed his teeth in the morning, during lunch at work, even in the bathroom at restaurants. He'd carry his phone into social events just to sneak a glance at his positions. What began as an exciting new skill had turned into a constant compulsion, one that dictated the rhythm of his day and the quality of his relationships. The market rewards this behavior in small, cruel ways. You stay glued to the screen all day, and 1 time out of 20, you catch a perfect breakout you would have missed otherwise. That hit of dopamine cements the cycle. See market, feel urge, place trade, chase high. Over time, it's no longer about the money. It's about the feeling, the rush of being in the game. And like any addiction, the stakes have to keep getting bigger to give you the same buzz. The cost is subtle at first. Meals get cold because you're just checking something real quick. Conversations become half-listened to background noise. Your sleep patterns shift around economic calendars, not your body's needs. Eventually, the market stops being a tool and becomes the master. You're not choosing to trade anymore. You're responding to an itch you can't scratch enough to make it go away. Victor's turning point came when a friend staged what he called a chart intervention. They challenged him to go 1 week without opening a single chart or checking a single ticker. You'll realize the market doesn't miss you, his friend said. The first 2 days were brutal. By day 5, he noticed something he hadn't felt in years: quiet. And when he came back, he traded less and better. Let's get real for a second. How many times did you check the market yesterday? Not just during trading hours, but after dinner, before bed, maybe even in the middle of the night. If the number makes you uncomfortable, you're not alone. Drop it in the comments. Sometimes seeing the number written out is the wake-up call we need. If you're wondering whether this could be you, try this. Skip a full trading day, not because you're forced to, but because you choose to. See how you feel. If it makes you restless, anxious, or irritable, the market may already have a hold on you that's deeper than you thought. Now, imagine trying to navigate these waters while blindfolded. That's exactly what happens when traders dive in without proper knowledge, thinking enthusiasm can substitute for education. The market is not a forgiving teacher. It doesn't hand out partial credit, it doesn't give you a pass for effort, and it certainly doesn't care if you didn't know. In trading, ignorance isn't just expensive, it's lethal. And yet, so many step into this ocean armed with nothing more than a few YouTube videos, a borrowed strategy, and the hope that luck will carry them. I remember a young trader named Sam who came into a mentorship group I was running. He was bright, ambitious, and convinced that instinct was his edge. "I just feel the market," he said proudly. And for a brief period, it worked. Beginner's luck smiled on him. But the problem with luck is that it's like finding a current that pushes you forward until it suddenly changes direction. One volatile week wiped out not only his account, but the confidence he'd built on sand. Ignorance in trading wears many disguises. Sometimes it's not knowing how your broker executes orders. Sometimes it's misunderstanding risk management. Sometimes it's overestimating how much capital you can actually afford to lose. But the most dangerous form is unknown unknowns, the things you don't even realize you're missing. These are the blind spots where the market strikes hardest. And here's the cruel irony: the market will often reward ignorance in the short term. You take a risky, uninformed trade and it wins big. You think, I must be a natural. That win becomes the seed of overconfidence, and overconfidence is the bridge that leads straight to ruin. The only antidote is deliberate learning, not just what to do, but why. Not just memorizing patterns, but understanding the market forces behind them. In my early years, I kept losing to the same type of move over and over until I finally swallowed my pride and spent 3 months doing nothing but studying price action from scratch. It was humbling, but that investment in knowledge has paid me more times over than any lucky trade ever could. Quick check. Can you explain why your last losing trade failed beyond the market went against me? Can you identify the specific market dynamics that caused the move? If not, there's work to do. And that's okay. Every expert was once a beginner who chose to stop guessing and start learning. Think of it like diving with the right gear. You wouldn't step into deep waters without checking your oxygen, your mask, your fins. In trading, your gear is your education. Without it, you're swimming blind, hoping the currents don't turn against you. So, before you place your next trade, ask yourself, are you truly prepared, or are you just hoping your lack of preparation won't cost you today? But here's something they definitely don't teach in those YouTube videos. While you're so focused on what you might gain from trading, you're blind to everything you're losing by not living. Chapter 8. The Opportunity Cost. Nobody talks about. Losses are easy to measure. You can see them on your account statement. But opportunity cost? That's invisible, and in many ways, far more devastating. It's the vacations you never take, the skills you never learn, the moments you never share, all because you were too deep in the market to notice life happening above the surface. I knew a trader named Rachel who had been meaning to take her kids to Italy for 3 summers in a row. Every year something came up. A hot market, a new strategy, a big setup she couldn't miss. She told herself she'd go next year when her account was bigger, when she had earned it. By the time she finally booked the trip, her oldest was in college and didn't want to go. The opportunity was gone, not because she couldn't afford it, but because she kept trading time for money she didn't actually need yet. Trading has a way of making you believe that time outside the market is time wasted. The charts are always moving. The news is always breaking. The setups are always forming. So you sit, hour after hour, eyes locked on the screen, telling yourself you're being productive. But what are you missing in the process? Relationships grow in shared experiences, not in half-distracted conversations. Skills develop through practice, not through watching another candle form. Memories are made in the present moment, not on the other side of just one more trade. Here's the danger. Opportunity cost doesn't show up in red numbers on your screen. You won't get an alert saying, you missed your daughter's dance recital, or your best friend stopped inviting you out. It creeps in quietly until one day, you look around and realize your world has shrunk to the size of your trading desk. The turning point for me came when I started scheduling off-chart days as seriously as I scheduled my trades. No market updates, no watch lists, no checking open positions. Instead, I'd fill that time with things that mattered in the long run. Dinners with friends, reading books that had nothing to do with trading, hiking with my phone turned off. The surprising result? My trading got better. Stepping away didn't just protect my personal life. It gave me perspective that improved my market decisions. Here's what I want you to do right now. Think of one thing you've been putting off because of trading. Maybe it's calling an old friend, starting that hobby, taking that trip. Whatever it is, schedule it this week. Non-negotiable. Then come back and tell us what you chose. Your story might inspire someone else to reclaim their life too. Ask yourself, if your trading career ended tomorrow, what would you have to show for the time you've invested? Would it only be a series of trades and account statements? Or would there be a life worth remembering alongside it? You know what makes this even worse? It's not just your own choices holding you back. Sometimes it's the chorus of voices around you, all shouting different directions, until you can't hear your own thoughts anymore. Chapter 9. The Echo Chamber of Bad Advice. The market is loud, not just the price action, the people, forums, chat rooms, social media feeds, YouTube gurus, all shouting their trades, their predictions, their guaranteed strategies. In this constant noise, it's easy to mistake volume for truth. And before you know it, you're no longer trading your plan. You're trading the collective fear and greed of a crowd you've never met. I remember a trader named Colin who joined a popular online trading group. At first, it felt like finding a tribe. Constant updates, real-time alerts, endless discussions about market moves. He said it made him feel connected, less alone. But over time, I noticed his trading journal was no longer filled with his own setups. It was filled with copied trades, half-understood strategies, and impulsive entries made because everyone in the chat was buying. When the group went through a losing streak, so did he. Not because the market turned, but because he had outsourced his thinking. The danger of the echo chamber is that it reinforces your biases. If you're bullish, you'll gravitate toward voices that agree with you. If you're bearish, you'll find your own chorus. In both cases, you're no longer seeing the market as it is. You're seeing it as you want it to be, amplified by dozens of strangers nodding along. And the worst part, bad advice often comes wrapped in confidence. It feels convincing because it's delivered with certainty, not because it's right. Breaking free means building a filter. Learn to ask, does this advice align with my plan? Do I understand the reasoning behind it? Would I take this trade if no one else was watching? I started limiting my exposure to trading chatter, and instead built a small circle of peers I trusted, traders who would challenge my ideas instead of echoing them. The difference was night and day. My trades became slower, more deliberate, and most importantly, mine. Here's a test. Think about your last 3 losing trades. How many were truly your ideas versus trades influenced by someone else's opinion? Be honest with yourself. If you've ever taken a trade just because someone else was confident about it, you know exactly what I'm talking about. The ocean is full of currents, and some will pull you far from where you intended to go. In trading, those currents are the voices that tell you what you want to hear instead of what you need to know. If you can't recognize when you're being carried away, you'll wake up one day in waters you don't know how to navigate. Let me ask you something deeper. Have you ever noticed how, after enough time in the markets, wins don't feel like wins anymore? Losses don't even sting? That's not strength. That's something far more dangerous. Chapter 10, the emotional bankruptcy. There's a kind of loss in trading that doesn't show up in your account balance. It's the loss of your ability to feel. At first, every win gives you a rush. Every loss stings like a fresh wound. But over time, after enough ups and downs, something inside starts to dull. You stop celebrating. You stop caring. You're still placing trades, but it's like you're watching someone else do it through a pane of glass. I met a trader named Javier who described it perfectly. It's like I used to have a full emotional palette, he told me. Now I'm down to black, white, and gray. Wins didn't bring joy anymore, just relief that he hadn't lost. Losses didn't hurt, just a tired shrug and a note in his journal. He wasn't reckless, he was empty. And in that emptiness, dangerous habits started to grow. He took trades out of boredom. He over-leveraged, not because he wanted to win big, but because he needed something to break the monotony. Emotional bankruptcy is the final stage of running too hard for too long without replenishing yourself. In the deep sea, divers know that prolonged exposure to high pressure without proper breaks can cause lasting damage to the body. In trading, prolonged exposure to high stress without emotional recovery can damage the mind in the same way. The signs are easy to miss. You stop tracking your wins with pride. You stop reviewing your losses with curiosity. You lose the capacity to feel satisfied, even on a good day. This isn't stoicism. This is depletion. And a depleted trader is a vulnerable trader. The way out isn't another strategy or a bigger account. It's stepping away long enough to refill the tank. Javier's turning point came when he took 3 months off to travel. No market news, no charts, no tickers. He came back with something he thought he'd lost forever: anticipation. The desire to engage, to improve, to care again. Take a moment right now, close your eyes, and ask yourself, when did you last feel genuine excitement about something outside of trading? Not relief, not distraction, but real, warm excitement. If you can't remember, that's your signal. You're running on empty, and no amount of profits can fill that particular tank. If you feel like the market has stripped you of color, ask yourself when you last experienced joy outside of a trade. If you can't remember, it's not your P&L you need to fix. It's your emotional balance sheet. But sometimes, empty isn't where it ends. Sometimes you hit something harder, something that forces you to choose between walking away forever or rebuilding from scratch. Chapter 11. The Breakpoint. Every trader has a breaking point, that moment when the weight of losses, pressure, and exhaustion crushes the last bit of fight you have left. For some, it comes after a catastrophic trade. For others, it's the slow, steady grind of small losses that erodes their will over months or years. Either way, when you reach it, the market stops being a challenge and becomes an adversary you no longer believe you can beat. For me, It came on a rainy Tuesday morning. I had just taken my third loss in a row that week, each one the result of second-guessing my plan. My account was down, but not catastrophically. What hurt more was the voice in my head whispering, "You're not cut out for this." I sat there, staring at the screen, and realized I couldn't remember the last time I'd traded from a place of confidence instead of fear. I didn't even close my platform that day. I just turned off the monitor and walked away. One trader I knew, Aaron, blew up his account in a single afternoon after revenge trading. Another, Mia, simply stopped showing up to her desk, ghosting the market entirely. The symptoms differ, but the root is the same. The mind and spirit can only absorb so much before they give out. And yet, here's the paradox. For many traders, the breakpoint is the doorway to transformation. It forces you to confront truths you've been avoiding, that your risk is too high, your process is too loose, your identity is too tied to your P&L. It strips away the illusions, leaving you with only two choices: quit or rebuild from the ground up. When I came back after my own breakpoint, it wasn't with a new magic strategy. It was with a new philosophy. Trade less, risk less, and build a life that could stand on its own, even if I never took another trade again. The market went from being my lifeline to being a tool, and the difference in pressure was night and day. Listen, if you're at your breakpoint right now, if you're reading this and thinking, "I can't do this anymore," I need you to hear something. This isn't failure. This is data. Your system is telling you something needs to change. Comment, "Rebuild" below if you're ready to start over with a stronger foundation. You're not alone in this. If you're nearing your breakpoint, don't see it as a failure. See it as a signal. Your oxygen is low. It's time to surface, regroup, and decide whether you'll dive again with better gear and a stronger plan. The question is, when you do come back, how do you make sure it's different this time? How do you build something that lasts longer than a few good months? Chapter 12, The Sustainable Trader. Sustainability isn't a word traders like to use. It sounds slow, boring, almost like settling. But in truth, it's the difference between those who burn out after a few good years and those who are still quietly compounding wins a decade later. A sustainable trader understands that the goal isn't to win big today, it's to stay in the game tomorrow. I met a trader named Elena who embodied this perfectly. She wasn't flashy, no luxury car photos, no all-night grind sessions. She worked fixed hours, traded only a few specific setups, and risked less than most people would think was worth their time. Her results? Consistently profitable for over 12 years. The secret, she told me, is that there is no secret. Just don't blow yourself up and let time do its job. Becoming sustainable means shifting your identity from a hunter to a gardener. Hunters chase, rush, and exhaust themselves in pursuit of a kill. Gardeners plant, nurture, and harvest at the right time, and their work feeds them for years. In trading terms, that means risking small enough that one bad week doesn't cripple you. Keeping your process so clear, you can follow it on autopilot. Taking breaks before you need them. Sustainability also means building a life outside of trading so that your emotional stability isn't hostage to your P&L. Elena had hobbies, friendships, and a strong fitness routine. Losses didn't shake her because they weren't her entire world. They were just part of a balanced life. Most traders resist this shift because it feels like giving up ambition. But in reality, sustainable trading creates the space for ambition to grow. Without constant damage control, you can focus on refinement, creativity, and compounding skills over time. Here's your sustainability check. Can you maintain your current trading approach for the next 5 years without burning out, blowing up, or losing everything else that matters? If the answer is no, what needs to change? Not tomorrow, not next month, but starting today. Ask yourself, if you keep trading the way you are now, can you see yourself still doing it happily in 5 years? If not, something needs to change. Sustainability isn't the opposite of success. It's the foundation of it. But here's what nobody tells you about sustainable trading. It doesn't mean doing it alone. In fact, the traders who last the longest have something most don't. A tribe that keeps them sharp when the isolation starts to distort their reality. Chapter 13, From Lone Wolf to Tribe. Trading is often romanticized as a lone wolf pursuit. Just you, your screens, and the market. And for a while, that solitude can feel empowering. No boss, no meetings, no one to answer to. But isolation has a way of distorting reality. Without outside perspective, small mistakes compound, blind spots widen, and you start to believe your own worst ideas. I once met a trader named Patrick who prided himself on doing it all alone. He avoided forums, ignored other traders, and treated collaboration as a distraction. For years, he scraped by. Some wins, more losses, endless cycles of tweaking strategies in the dark. Then, after a particularly brutal drawdown, he joined a small mastermind group. At first, he barely spoke, but over time, he started sharing trades, asking questions, and most importantly, letting others challenge his thinking. Within 6 months, not only had his performance improved, but so had his confidence. I realized I wasn't broken, he told me. I just needed someone to tell me when I was drifting. The right community doesn't hand you trades, it gives you mirrors. People who will call you out when you're breaking your rules. Peers who've seen the same patterns and can warn you when you're about to repeat a mistake. Mentors who can shorten your learning curve by years. Of course, not all communities are equal. A good one is built on trust, accountability, and shared values, not hype, not pumping trades, not feeding egos. In my experience, the best trading circles are small, tight-knit, and more focused on process than profit. Moving from lone wolf to tribe doesn't mean giving up independence. It means surrounding yourself with people who sharpen you, who keep you anchored when the market, or your own mind, starts to pull you off course. Think about this. Who's the last person you had an honest conversation with about your trading? Not bragging about wins or hiding losses, but real talk about where you're at. If you can't name someone, you're more isolated than you think. Building connections isn't weakness, it's wisdom. Now here's the ultimate shift, one that changes everything. What if instead of organizing your life around trading, you organized your trading around your life? Some traders treat their life like it's the side project, and trading is the main event. They wake, eat, and sleep according to the market schedule. Vacations are planned or canceled based on economic calendars. Relationships bend around trading hours until they eventually break. It's a philosophy built on the belief that trading should always come first. But here's the truth. When trading becomes the center of your universe, it eventually collapses in on itself. I learned this the hard way. In my early years, I believed sacrifice was proof of commitment. I skipped weddings, family trips, even hospital visits because the market was open. Every decision revolved around my trades, and for a while, I wore that like a badge of honor. But slowly, the rest of my life began to wither. I had money, but no memories. Wins felt hollow because there was no one to share them with. Losses felt heavier because there was nothing else to balance them. The life-first philosophy flips the equation. Instead of building your life around trading, you build your trading around your life. That means defining your non-negotiables first. Family dinners, fitness, hobbies, mental health, and then creating a trading plan that fits around them. It means accepting that you will miss trades sometimes, and that's not failure. It's choosing the trade that matters more. I've seen traders make this shift and find not only more joy, but also better performance. With a balanced life, they're less desperate for each trade to succeed, which means they take smarter risks, stick to their plan, and recover faster from losses. Trading stops being a fight for survival and becomes what it was always meant to be, a tool for freedom, not a cage. Let me challenge you with something. For the next week, schedule something important that has nothing to do with trading during market hours. A lunch with a friend, a workout class, a walk in the park. Then actually do it without checking your phone. Notice how the market survives without you. Share what you did in the comments. Let's normalize having a life outside the charts. Ask yourself, if trading vanished from your life tomorrow, would you still recognize the person left behind? If the answer scares you, it's time to recenter. We're almost at the surface now, but before we fully emerge, there's one more truth we need to face, the most important one of all. Chapter 15, The Real Profit. When you first start trading, the goal is obvious: make money. Everything else, the sleepless nights, the missed dinners, the stress, is framed as the price of doing business. You tell yourself it's worth it, because one day, the numbers in your account will be so big that nothing else will matter. But when you finally hit those numbers, if you do, you learn something the market never advertises. Money alone is a shallow victory. I once had a conversation with a veteran trader named Simon. He'd made millions over his career, lived in a beautiful home, drove the kind of car most people dream about. But when I asked him what he was proudest of, he didn't mention a single trade or dollar figure. He said, "I'm proud that I can have breakfast with my wife every morning. I'm proud I can take my kids to school. I'm proud I'm not a stranger in my own house anymore. That was his real profit, the life he built around his trading, not the trading itself. The deeper you go into this craft, the more you realize that the market is just a mirror. It reflects who you are, your patience, your discipline, your fears, your greed. And the greatest reward it can offer isn't a stack of cash, but the version of you that emerges when you've learned to navigate it without losing yourself. Real profit is having the freedom to choose how you spend your days. It's the peace of mind that comes from knowing a losing week won't destroy you, financially or emotionally. It's the relationships you preserve, the health you protect, and the sense of purpose you carry outside the charts. If you've been chasing numbers and ignoring everything else, this is your chance to adjust your compass. The market will always be there. Opportunities will always come. But time, health, and connection, those are finite. Guard them more fiercely than you guard your entries. And as we surface from this deep dive, remember, survival in trading isn't about swimming faster or diving deeper than everyone else. It's about knowing when to breathe, when to rise, and what's worth bringing back to the shore. Surface with purpose. We've just navigated 15 layers of the trading deep, from the shimmering surface of promises to the crushing pressure of the depths, and finally back into the sunlight. Along the way, you've seen the hidden price tags, the sleepless nights, the silent strain on relationships, the slow creep of burnout, the mirage of control, the addiction that hides in plain sight, the cost of ignorance, the opportunities you never take, the echo chamber of bad advice, the emotional bankruptcy, the breaking point, and the rebirth into sustainability, community, life-first philosophy, and the real profit that can't be measured in dollars. If even one chapter felt uncomfortably familiar, it's not a sign you failed, it's a sign you're aware. And awareness is the first breath you take before deciding whether to dive again, this time with better gear and a stronger plan. Here's what I want you to do next. Pick one thing from what you've heard today, just one, and commit to changing it this week. Maybe it's setting a hard screen time cutoff. Maybe it's telling a loved one the truth about where you're at. Maybe it's booking that trip you've been waiting for the right time to take. Small changes made consistently will protect your oxygen better than any perfect trade ever could. But I want to go deeper with you. Drop a comment below and tell me which depth you've been in and what your plan is to resurface. Not just for you, but for every trader reading who thinks they're alone down there. Your story might be the rope someone else grabs in the dark. And if you want to keep exploring these depths with a community that gets it, hit that subscribe button and join us here at Trading Psychology Stick. We dive deep into the psychology of trading every week, not just to make better trades, but to build better lives around those trades. Because in the end, trading is not about proving you can survive underwater longer than anyone else. It's about coming back up with your health, your relationships, your peace, and your purpose intact. That's the real edge. That's the real win. So breathe, reset, and remember, the market will always be there. But the life you're trading for, that clock is ticking right now. Welcome to the surface. Welcome to Trading Psychology Stick. Let's build something sustainable together.